As we were completing this film, the world was ravaged by the COVID-19 virus pandemic. While we generally think of pandemics as being medical diseases, shadow pandemics such as domestic violence mirror and are often fueled by the horror of biological ones. Work and recreational spaces are shuttered, and people are sequestered in their homes. For a woman who is unsafe in her home, this is the worst nightmare.
My first thought was we need to fill a football field full of women. 17,000 women was my original thought, because that was the number of women that were killed in the Vietnam era from domestic violence in the United States. And obviously that was a big idea, and I fully expected that we couldn't do that. What we decided to do is to have a number of different communities around the U.S. have a day of action.
The Day of Action was an interesting concept that grew and became a national concept. And therefore, when we started reaching out to people across the United States, people said, we'd like to be part of it. What do you envision? So we of course talked about the die-in concept. And some folks got it right away because there were recent actions, political actions against gun violence, for example, with die-ins. But people weren't quite sure. They thought it might be too political. And so we made a video to demonstrate that, no, it didn't have to be a political action. It didn't have to end up in everyone being arrested. It had to be more of a demonstration, almost a ritual of remembrance, to demonstrate that fact that so many women have been murdered, are being murdered on a daily basis.
A woman is killed every 16 hours by an intimate partner in the United States. Between 2014 and 2017, there has been a 19% increase in deaths due to domestic violence in the United States. Around the world, 50,000 women were murdered by their intimate partner in 2017. Between 2001 and 2012, 6,500 U.S. troops were killed in Iraq and Afghanistan. During that same time, 11,700 women were murdered in the U.S. by their intimate partners. The Day of Action. One component of the Day of Action was a die-in. Women entered the designated space and lay down on the ground to represent a death. Men and other women formed a protective circle around them. In silence, participants held their positions for 1 to 2 minutes. After the silence, the leader rang a chime. Then a previously designated woman rose from the ground and helped a nearby woman to her feet. They acknowledged each other for a moment, perhaps honoring their own experience from the past. These 2 women helped 2 more. Men and women from the protective circle joined them.
Stop the violence now! Stop the violence now! Stop the violence now! Stop the violence now!
Imagine if women were killing off men every week at the rate that women are being killed off every week right now. What would it take for the patriarchy to sit at the table with us and say, how can I make this culling stop? And that's what we need. We need the men at the table asking, how can we make this killing of women stop? And not just white women, missing and murdered Indigenous women, trans women, LGBT women, Black women. This is what we have to do, and this is a room full of white people. We need to step out of line, get ourselves together, and stop the patriarchy.
We also made suggestions. We said you can tell stories, you can do music, of course, t-shirt projects. You can do personal story. You can even do a mural project. We built a website with a lot of suggestions. We said you can hold up signs with statistics or signs just with ideas on them. We had a lot of information for people. And whatever the local group chose to do, they could run with that.
And if we don't want to talk about the money being spent on endless war, then simply picture a young child, whether it is a young girl or a young boy, in a violent home, who then believes the only way that they can survive is to go into the military. And they are taught to then exert proper levels of violence upon others. And then when they get out of the service, whether they've been to war or not, come back home and exert that violence within their community, within their family, along with the memories, along with the PTSD, along with the combat experience.
A domestic violence flag was raised the very first time ever with the state agency and with the land office. There was a press release on it, and there's going to be trainings on it 2 times this month, on the 15th and on the 30th. What that class is going to do is it's going to be training people, training the community on the awareness of domestic violence, but also how to recognize it. How to recognize it in your coworkers so that if it is happening within, that you're able to give them your support.
What people don't understand about women and domestic violence and surviving it, when you get to the other side, sometimes you feel like, but where's the La La Land happy ending? Because everybody told me just leave, but nobody told me what was gonna happen once I left. Everybody told me, why don't you just take your kids and leave? Are you gonna give me full access to your bank accounts and give me your debit card number so that I can buy groceries to feed my children? Because these are the things I have to think about. And you tell me I should just leave. Where am I going? I don't have a deposit for first-class security. I don't have a car. I don't have my children's immunization records. So even if I wanted to put them in school, I can't. I don't have my social security cards or birth certificates. I don't have my prescriptions for my children's asthma medicine. So now I have to go back to the town of which everyone knows him to go to the doctor for someone to say, I saw her with the kids, they're at Walgreens getting prescriptions, and now he kills me in the parking lot. So please quit telling me to just leave when you don't even know what leaving looks like yourself.
Some of them did more artistic things. The arts are so powerful to bring forth ideas.
She arranges immediate welfare coverage. She picks up Randy and me and takes us to our new home. On the way, I see Ron's car heading home long before he was due to be off work. He knew. He felt it. But for now, we are safe.
We never stop arguing. Our daughter is 2. She cries out, "Stop!" I close the door on our arguments, but he wiggles the door handle and won't leave me alone. And I tell him, no, please, stop.
I feel shaky and elated. What I have craved for 5 years is actually coming true practically overnight. We were still alive. I hug my son. But the fear doesn't leave. What if Ron hurts my family?
And it takes me years, but I finally tell him that I want out. I give up. I call it quits. I just have to. He says no. I'm not allowed to go. We will stay together because that is what God wants for us.
I hear a knock at the door. I open it and a silver handgun is pointed at my heart. Please, Ron, please put the gun down.
I cry and I know that I will either kill myself or I will find a way to get out.
No, I won't, you fucking bitch. You shouldn't be breaking up a marriage. He tries to take me out the door, but my roommate has called the police. They have their own guns pointed. They talk him down and get me to the safety of the back of a police car. safety. A moment later, they shoved Ron in with me.
I know a number of dancers in New York. And one is a woman named Sonali Skandan, who has an East Indian dance company named Jiva Dance. And I asked her if she wanted to participate. And she said, absolutely. And she had the perfect little piece. It's an East Indian dance of a courtesan trapped in the life of courtesan, who dreams of being able to dance freely, who dreams of her life before she became a courtesan, i.e. a slave, essentially, and then realizes that no, she is not free anymore. She's trapped. Gabriela Estrada was a choreographer who was one of the first people when we first began reaching out. And we were just throwing fishing lines out across the country. Who would like to do something? A woman from the Ballet Hispanico in New York City said, I would. And so we were talking to her for a number of months. So Gabriela, who is originally from Mexico, came up with a beautiful dance based on Carmen. And she found the perfect dancer, a beautiful young woman, Ivanka Figueroa from Sonora. And it's Carmen. She starts as Carmen, and then she becomes every woman. And depicts being comfortable in her home, being comfortable in her skin, being relaxed, and suddenly, bam, you hear a door slam and you know the abuser's there, and suddenly it switches. And then it goes back to the Carmen, and Carmen, of course, in the opera is killed. And the name of this dance is Not One More Carmen, or Ni una Carmen más, nada, not one more. And the end of the ballet, the dancer counts, una, dos, tres, because there's this statistic that 1 in 4 women in this country are badly abused. Last time she did it, una, dos, tres. And she started and then went, Ni una Carmen más, not one more Carmen. That day, I told a story. It's a Grimm's tale. Everyone can see themselves in the story because the particulars are not specific to a personal story. It's really much more universal. So, there is an old Grimm's tale that I discovered. It's called Old Rink Rank. But it's that story of a young woman who falls through a crack in a mountain, and she's captured by a troll. And the mountain closes over her, and the troll says, you're mine, and you will do everything I tell you, or I will kill you. She is caught, she is trapped, there's no way out. She's his house servant, his house slave, and she forgets her life. She forgets her own name because he calls her Mutter verrotten, mother rot. So she forgets who she is, even to the point of forgetting her name. It's incredible. And what's interesting about it is that at some point, she decides to get out. I remember using this once with formerly incarcerated women that I was working with. And we got to that place and I said, what do you suppose took her so long to decide to get out? And one of them said, well, you don't decide to get out until you've reached rock bottom. when she gets out on her way home, she remembers who she is.
When all are standing, representing individual strength renewed, a firm affirmation was proclaimed. Domestic violence must be stopped.
Say it, sister, don't hold nothing back. 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 Say it in the morning, say it at night, say it in the darkness, say it in the light, say it loudly, say it clearly, say it strongly. It's time to start, to stop, not to stop. Say it, sister, don't hold nothing back. 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 Say it in the workplace, say it at home, say it in the litter, say it on the phone, to the Congress, to the State House, to the churches. Our bodies are our own, they're our own, yes, our own. Say it, sister, don't hold nothing back. 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 Say it in the market, say it in the streets, say it in the lines of your way and you meet. For your mothers, for your daughters, for your sisters. Speak out and break the silence.